Welcome to the Divine Play Podcast,
a practical guide to living with joy.
Welcome to the Divine Play Podcast,
a practical guide to living with joy.
I am Shannon Morrison, co-host.
And I'm Marilena Lee, the other half of the hosting.
And we are here today in this new episode with Elisa Boogaerts. And I'm going to speak a little bit and to explain her bio a little bit, and then we're just going to dive into this beautiful conversation of transformation. Elisa Boogaerts is a transformation movement. She is the founder of Inspiration by Elisa, an inspirational speaker, a published author, and a certified life coach. She helps professionals prioritize themselves to reclaim their time, energy, and freedom so they can do what they want to do in their lives. Elisa understands the challenges faced by people who constantly put others before themselves. Her mission is to guide clients to make positive change towards a life of self-prioritization and empowered living. Oh my gosh, we need this conversation in my life. I'm so excited that you're here on this podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Loving
Absolutely.
Joy throughout the world. It makes me so happy.
Absolutely. I love that joy throughout the world. So tell us a little bit, besides what we just heard, tell us a little bit about who Elisa is.
Besides what we just heard, I was like, yeah, I'm so used to like jumping into my bio myself. I've had this, a sort of roller coaster of life to do with like confidence and figuring out how to put myself first. And I had some like obstacles in my life where I feel like I really had to overcome and really spend some time to do that like internal work to be like, I don't feel happy right now, or I don't have as much joy in my life as I want to have in my life. You know, I'm really doing that. Okay, how can I figure out what my values are or what I want, and then make that happen and make these positive shifts so that I can be more happy and do what I want to do in my life. And so, yeah, I've just gathered this like huge toolkit, and I really love to share them with people. I want to help empower people because I feel like so many of us, we give so much to other people. You know, we give so much to like our jobs and our families and our friends and our, you know, everything. And some of us just don't leave enough time for ourselves. And then we end up just being so depleted and exhausted. And so I really think that it's kind of time to start really doing some internal work for us and figuring out that balance, right? It doesn't mean that you're like entirely selfish and only focus on you, but see how you can do both, make time for you and time for others.
So Elisa, I'm really curious, like you say that you're part of the transformation movement. And so I'm really curious because I do transformational work and I've been running in these circles for a really long time. But the transformational movement is actually not something I've heard referenced before. So I was wondering if you could tell the people out there listening, what is the transformational movement and what does that mean for you as a guide and a coach?
I think the transformational movement is just all of us that work in that industry, or like all of us coaches who want to help people to transform their lives. And I think that right now there seems to be so much of that. I feel like there's like a real like shift is happening in the world and in people's lives to actually like have this transformation. I think that COVID really brought that out in a lot of us, right? It really gave us that time to think and be like, what do I actually want with my life? Am I happy with what I'm doing? Because like everything just got so thrown in the air when that happened. And so I really feel like there is this movement happening where everybody is transforming, and we have people like us who are helping them in that transformation. And so for me, that's what it means. And that it's just, I just see it in the world. Everybody's really trying to make a bit of a shift. And I think it's a shift in a positive direction. And I think that people are really, really, trying to just see what is better for them. I think we can get so stuck in these doing all the like the shoulds of life, right? Or doing things like I can think about me, back like 20 years ago when I was, ticking all the boxes of life and I was being the good girl and I was, doing everything right, but I was actually miserable. I wasn't happy at all. I wasn't doing what I wanted to do. And I had to make that shift so that I could, and I had to give myself that permission to prioritize myself and what I wanted and do what I wanted out of my life. Yeah.
Awesome. And the question I have for you, this podcast is all about living with joy. And you can see, for those of you who are listening, you can't see the smile on Elisa's face, but it is big and it is genuine. And so I'm really curious what specifically joy means to you. And what was the biggest barrier you had to accessing that joy? And where do you think the turning point was for you into your own transformation?
So joy means to me, filling your life with what you love and figuring out what that is and like what your values are and what's important to you and really like living to that and also just, I don't know, I feel like there's so much joy and beauty in the world that you can find it anywhere you go. I remember I did this program and one of the exercises was to go on a color walk. And it's just like you pick a color, so you want like yellow, and then you go outside and you go on a walk and you look for yellow. And it's amazing what you can see, because sometimes we can just like, I'm leaving the house, I'm going from A to B, I'm so focused on what I'm doing that we forget to kind of like look at the beauty around us. And like, so even just little things like that, I think is like part of what joy means, just to actually like stop and look around and see the world. I love that. And I remember the coach, she had an example that where she walked her dog every day. And then she went to go and do a color walk. And she was like, there was this tree like right outside her door that was like all yellow flowers. And she was like, how long has that been there for? And her neighbor happened to be outside. And she was like, it's been there for like, it bloomed a month ago or something. And she's like, I've walked my dog several times a day, every day. And I never even noticed it. And then that brought her joy. And then for me, I think the point in my life where I found it the hardest to access joy was back in 2011. And it was when I hit my rock bottom and when the first time I kind of felt the weight of depression. I had no money. I just had a breakup out of an emotionally abusive relationship. So I was like heartbroken and kind of depleted from that. And I just moved to London, England. So everything was unfamiliar and I didn't have a job yet and I didn't really have any local friends. And so to me, like I was just, I felt like I had nothing really. And so it was why I found it really hard to access that joy. And from this place, I was really able to deep dive into every area of my life and decide, who I wanted to be and how I wanted to show up. And it was actually kind of like this beautiful moment to have because I was there on my own, that I could rebuild my life the way I wanted. I could choose who I wanted to hang out with. I could decide what job I wanted. I had all this choice, and it was great to actually be able to choose that and build my life the way I wanted without like external factors or other people telling me what to do, or, sometimes you can get so much pressure. And and I remember a friend of mine, well, I had met her traveling before that because I had been backpacking before. And so she moved she was from England. So she moved back home a few months later after I had moved and invited me out for like a cup of tea. So we went to this cute little quaint tea shop in Camden. And I remember that was like one of the first moments where I felt a little spark of joy because she gave me this like really warm hug. And we went, and it was like a November rainy, cold day in London. And the tea shop was warm and the tea was warm and it was peppermint and it smelled divine, and it was just this little kind of like sanctuary moment. And I remember like that was the bit of the spark. And then she had asked me, what I wanted out of my life in London. And I had no idea, actually. I felt I like hadn't really been asked what I wanted and be able to like think for myself much up until that point. And that really sparked me. That really got me out of that really like lifted me out of the low state that I was in and was able to rebuild my life from there.
So it sounds like the tiny wins are important.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that we often like can forget about that. And like every day, there's always something to be grateful for. There's always something that went well, even when things, maybe don't feel so fantastic at the moment. There's always a little bit of joy that you can find in something. And Yeah, I like to think of that because sometimes we can focus on these goals, and it's good to have goals and to strive towards them. But like every little step along the way, I consider a success. You know what, that if you're not making those teeny tiny, like, that's how you get there. And so it's good to actually like celebrate all of those little moments, even if they don't feel like they're a step in the direction. Like even just me that day with my friend, like I remember being on the couch and I was just like, I don't want to get up. You know, it's like raining outside. I'm feeling down. Like I don't want to get off the couch. And even just deciding that, like, no, I'm going to get up. I'm going to shower. I'm going to leave the house. You know, that was just, those were like the little successes right there. That really was the beginning of me finding joy in my life.
I love that. I love that. And it sounds to me like, I love that your friend, because it doesn't happen. We get to, you know, have good friends that inspire us and kind of call us out and just allow us to kind of choose into, right? So I love that she asked you, what do you want to do with your life here in London? Like, what is your vision? What are you creating? And that gave you, what I hear you say is it gave you an opportunity to be like, oh, well, what am I creating? Like, and I love that you had a choice. I just spoke to a person. I just went on a walk this morning, you know, and I posted something on my Snapchat and she's like, I wish I had the gumption to do that. And I'm like, just choose to.
Yeah.
Just do it. Like you can do anything as you choose. Like you said, you chose to get off the couch. You're like, I don't want to, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just as simple as like 1, 2, 3, let's go. And aren't you so glad you did? Because you had that beautiful moment with your friend.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I love
I'm
that.
so glad that I did. Yeah. And I think she had to text me about 3 times. Be like, yes, okay, I'll go. But yeah, I'm so glad that I did. Because yeah, who knows, right? Who knows how long I would have stayed in that low state for. It was just this a very nice, small little gesture, right? Let's go for it.
Absolutely. That was profound in the end, right?
Yeah.
I love this. I love that you help professionals or entrepreneurs just kind of shift in this modality, and it will increase our relationships, increase our business, if we can pour into them. So what does that look like? Because self-care is really important to all of us in this room, in this podcast, in this session here. We love self-care. I know you get to put the oxygen mask on yourself before you can pour into other people. And just like you said, sometimes it's rock bottom before we really start taking care of ourselves. And I totally resonate with that. So what does that look like for your clients or people around you or yourself? Like, how did you start it? Did you just work on yourself and be like, oh my gosh, this is profound? Just tell us a little bit about that journey.
Well, yeah, because when I first started it, I was kind of like looking bigger, and I was really focusing on self-confidence. And I created my signature system called the confidence method, which is actually what I wrote. We were talking about this earlier. What I wrote my book about was all about the confidence method. And it's like a 10-step system. And that's really like a journey of self-confidence and figuring out like who you are. And like I said before, like what your values are and what's important to you. And then what you kind of want to do with that. And then also how you get in your own way and how other people might get in your way, and how to sort of navigate all of that so that you're unstoppable and you actually do continue to go after what you want. And when I started to kind of break that down, I was like, this is like a big system. And so like, what is something that I think is the most important out of that? And I really think it is about giving yourself that permission to prioritize yourself and knowing that it's okay for you to say yes to you. And I think that's really sort of the first step. And some things that go with that is like, you know, confidently saying no to what you don't want to do. That can be really hard for some people to say no, you know, so I like to give you some like tips on how to do that. And then, yeah, being okay with putting yourself first and doing that without guilt and how to overcome that guilt. And then just really daring to be you and owning it and being like, no, this is what I'm going to do. And like, this is what I want. And I know that with my wisdom and my experience and like my knowing of myself that I'm going to do this. And so I'm going to say no to this, or I'm going to, you know, I'm going to adjust my life, and I'm okay with that, you know, and I'm just daring to be me, and I'm going to own it, and I'm going to do it anyway. And other people can have their experience of that, and it's okay because you know what you want.
I love that. Daring to be.
Yeah, daring to be you.
I love that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I know that for me, this ability to say no was a really big barrier to my own joy. And so I was always saying yes to everything. I was saying yes to everything. I was scheduling clients, I was squeezing them in, I was overworking myself. I was, offering too many things. And even just saying yes to family members, coming with me on certain things, or, going to certain events with me when I really didn't want them there because it was a relationship dynamic that wasn't pleasant. And so I was recently working with somebody, and like she finally like came through this big block and like learned how to say no to her mom. And it was incredible how much like joy there was in her face as she was talking about it. And I was kind of stalking your website in preparation for our conversation, and I came across this program that you have called Boundary Busters. And so I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the difference, in your experience of life, and like how much joy you can have in your life when you learn to come at boundaries from an empowered place, versus, kind of feeling helpless to the situation. And, if there's one piece of that you could share with people, like a practical tool, what might that be?
Yeah, the boundary busters. When I was thinking about that, because I think boundaries is a huge thing that a lot of us struggle with, right? Like you're saying, it's like you say yes to everything, and even like trying to figure out where your boundaries lie. And so when I was thinking about that, I was like, well, what are the main things that kind of like tear down our boundaries? And I think that they're people pleasing, right? We like to give so much, but sometimes that can like burn ourselves out. It can be to our own detriment sometimes. Giving in. So like saying sort of like yes to that, or just like, even if maybe you do set up the boundary and then someone challenges it, then you kind of give in and kind of let it and then your boundary gets busted down. Peer pressure, right? So being like, oh, like, let's go out and do something, or you find yourself somewhere and you're like, how did I get here? Or you wanted to, like, it can happen. I find, say even like with work or like in corporations or the office or something, right? Everybody's going to go to lunch or something, or everybody's going to go for a drink after work, and you know that you have plans, but they're probably going to be talking about that project that you want to be part of that conversation or whatever might happen. And so you just kind of feel peer pressure to go, or like, you got like a salad in the fridge you're not supposed to have for dinner, but everybody's going out for pizza. So you end up eating the pizza instead of that healthy salad because you're on your health kick right now. And the fourth one is avoidance. Just purely avoiding the conversation, or having a difficult conversation, or just avoiding like, oh, is that so? Like, I'll just give in all the time. And actually, just the other week with a client of mine, we were talking about these boundary busters and about setting boundaries, and I had said to her, like, it's not too late. It's not too late to say no to something. It's not too late to stop giving in to something. It's not too, it's not too late to do that, and you can change it. And it may be a bit of a process, right? It may take time to convince the other person or have those conversations, and maybe like do it slowly, but it's not too late. And she was like, that was her main takeaway of that session, because she was like, I've been giving into certain things, with her husband or with her family for so long, like years and years. And she's like, I don't want to do this anymore, but I feel like it's too late. How can I change it now? It's too difficult. And and the conversation tool that I gave her was where you acknowledge that you hear the person and what they might want. Like if they ask you to do something, and then you say how you feel and what you want. So you see them and you hear them, and you're like, I see you, I hear you, and yes, I understand. I'm going to do this anyway. This is what I'm doing. And so it's a way of kind of like setting that boundary, and it can be like repeated several times as well, even in the same conversation. Like I like to give the example of, again, sort of say with food, because when we start to sort of do transformation for ourselves, our relationships can be forced to shift. And some people can find that kind of threatening, right? Because you don't want the relationship to stay, and you like it the way it is. And it comes out of a good place. But, with that can come guilt, and then you might self-sabotage, or you feel so guilty that you like sabotage yourself. And so, like, say, for example, you and a close friend always go for burgers once a week or something like that. It's your thing. That's what you do. And then you want to change that. And then so you might say like, oh yeah, I know going to our favorite burger place is really good, but I'm like really focusing on my health right now. So, can we go to a healthier restaurant or something like that? And then if they come back and they're like, oh, come on, like you love this burger place and, our friend's coming too or something like that. And they might kind of like push it back on you. So instead of giving in, you can say like, yes, I know. And their burgers are amazing. I totally want to see our friend. Like, why don't we go grab a coffee and go for a walk instead? You can give like an alternative to be like, I'm still holding this boundary because I know that if I go there, I'm going to give into the burger and the fries and the milkshake, and I don't want to do that. So this is my boundary, and I'm giving you alternative, and I'm letting you know that I see you and I hear you, and like I love you, and I still want to spend time with you. Our relationship is changing just a tiny bit, but we can still have our great relationship just in a slightly different way.
Oh, I love that.
I love that
so
too.
much. Like, oh, like, yeah, I understand it's uncomfortable for you, but doing it the other way is uncomfortable for me. So I'm going to do it this way because I'm going to take care of me first. But you take care of you, And if we go to the same place, that's cool. And if not, that's cool. It's like this releasing of expectation from how the other person is going to respond to it. But like being like, this is what I'm doing. I love that. That's good times.
And I feel like it plays a good part in everything. Like it doesn't have to be the burger, but that is such a powerful conversation right now where everybody's like, oh my gosh, we get to get healthy. It's summertime. We're changing we're talking about mindset and shifting, and the world is shifting to get a little healthier right now. But there is those points of like, chips and guacamole. I just want to go and have chips and guacamole with this one human because that's what I do all the time. But it could be anything. It could be, I still remember to this day very vividly the first time I told my boss no. And it felt like, oh my Lanta, it felt hard. And you know what she said? I am so freaking proud of you. She's like, in 7 years, you have never told me no. And I was like, it was just like this overwhelming, like I'm overextending. I absolutely cannot do this. Like, I just don't have, there's just no freaking way. But it was the first time I said no, because Shannon Morrison is a recovering people pleaser. I would do everything in my power to make everybody else happy. And it sabotaged the hell out of myself. Right. And my energy and what I was creating. And so, so much space has been created since that moment, and it gets easier, right? It gets easier to like connect that boundary. I love what you're doing. So you wrote a book.
Yes.
And it does go through this, right? It goes through this very specifically in your journey and how you help your clients. I love that. Show us your book. Some of us are going to see this on YouTube. So you can't see the book if you're listening. But I love that. Where can they find your book, Elisa?
We're on Amazon.
Amazon.
Yeah.
Perfect. As we wrap up, we've talked about joy. Oh, you have more questions. Marilena has more questions.
For the people listening, Elisa, what is your book called? What is the name of your book?
Oh yeah. Not everybody can hear us.
Change Your Life with Self-Confidence.
Oh, sorry. Please forgive me. Say that one more time.
Change Your Life with Self-Confidence, Introducing the Confidence Method.
Awesome. And that can be found on Amazon. And I'm guessing it's kind of a short book too. Like it's an easy read and probably pretty accessible for people.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's got like steps and it's got journal prompts and takes you through the whole thing bit by bit, little exercises in there. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that.
I really do. I have got, let's see how many, the last 2 books I've gotten do that. And I love that because I'm really bad about prioritizing the work, especially if I'm listening to a book on Audible. It says, pause this audio right now and go do the work. And I'm like, dude, I'm walking. Like I can't do the work right now. Right. So I love the fact that you have them right in the book and it's not like another workbook, but it's like interactive with the tools. And that's going to let people really soak it in. So that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really proud of it. I really hope it can help people make it help feel like just better in themselves and that, like, yes, you can do it. You can do what you want to do. Just figure it out and like know how to navigate all those obstacles that may get in the way and go for it.
I love that.
I love that too. And you have like from I know you have a story in there. And when we first started talking today, you said, from my rock bottom, I created this. From your rock bottom, you've created your programs, your way of being is different. Your self-care is different. And the side effect of that is what you created up until now, right? And that's beautiful. I love that. Congratulations on that, by the way. You get to celebrate all of the things.
Yeah.
So if there was one practical tool that you could give to people that might help them to have their own turning of the tide, even if it's a micro win, if there's one small thing that you could give people to take away today that they could begin to apply this afternoon, right? Something simple and something profound, what would it be?
So now I have to think of like, which tool would be the best one?
They can always read your book to find more.
That's true. I'm a huge
Absolutely. Get the book, friends.
I think that I'm a huge advocate for like affirmations and positive self-talk. And I really think that if we can start being kinder to ourselves and like love ourselves more, and even like spreading that joy to ourselves as well, like turning it inward, that I just think that like we'll have more joy and feel happier. And it doesn't have to be, sometimes I think that affirmations and positive self-talk, they're kind of like, it's kind of everywhere and everybody hears them. We're like, oh yeah, whatever. But I think it can be as easy as just making like a small shift about something. So like, if you find that you have like a negative narrative or chatter in your head, see if you can flip it to something that's more loving and more compassionate towards yourself. And it doesn't have to be some like, big crazy dream. It can just be a small shift. Like I know the one that's come up for me, like a narrative sort of my whole like childhood, and I even still comes up sometimes now, is that I'm stupid. Sometimes if I can, especially if you do something new, right? It's difficult, it's hard, or maybe I'm using it as an excuse, like I'm just going to give up and like, this is my excuse to run away. I'm too stupid. And, if you can challenge that and be like, well, and get really curious about it. Like, am I actually stupid? Like, no, actually I know that I'm quite smart. Maybe I just don't know this thing right now. So the affirmation could be, I'm learning as I go. I am a capable, strong, intelligent woman. Right? Because I know that that's true. Because sometimes if we do an affirmation that maybe we don't actually believe, then that change of changing that narrative won't work. But I'm learning as I go is a fact, is truth, right? We all, as we learn something, we do learn as we go. And so that's kind of like an easy one for your brain to be like, oh yeah, I am. And instead of telling yourself that you're stupid, you could just say, I'm learning as I go. And that's like a small little positive shift that you can make to yourself. So see if you can do those types of things and try and find something that's true, that's believable, and say that to yourself instead.
Oh, that's a fabulous tool.
It is. And I love that you just point out something profound, because it is little, but it is profound if you really think about it. And I think that people think, we did a leadership program, I did this program, I read this book on confidence, and I'm good to go. Like, it's never going to come up again. And friends, what I just heard Elisa say is, this statement comes in my brain still today from my childhood. And still today, I get to switch it, right? I get to be like curious. Like, where is this coming from? And then how do I pivot out of this? I will forever work on my worth. I am worthy of ... Because that, and I am stupid comes up a lot as well, because I'm like, okay, well, I just don't know what I don't know yet. Right? I just don't know what I know yet. And so we get to learn every single day. I love that so much. And it gets us out of that self-sabotage and the poor me and the victim really quickly. If you're like, change it to an affirmation and be like, I am learning every day. And we are learning every day. That is powerful. It's not like you go to the gym, you come out with abs one time.
Right.
This is work.
I woke up this morning feeling just fine, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, sat down to meditate, and like got up from my meditation full of low-level rage and like imposter syndrome. And I was like, what is happening right now? I was like, what is happening? Like, why? Oh, because it's not about like constant bliss. Like, that's not what joy is. Joy is about getting real with all of the painful stories that are bouncing around in here and giving myself an opportunity to examine them with curiosity. I love that you used the word curiosity, because that curiosity is the key to being able to go in and like question those stories. And I found I did a shamanic journey recently, and I was really scared and like not wanting to look at the things that were going on inside me, and literally like got so curious and called in my inner child. And like, she's curious, right? Like my inner child, my 5-year-old me was the most curious thing ever. Everybody's like, curiosity killed the cat my whole childhood, right? Because I was like, but why? But why? But why? And so like, you know, like bringing in that energy of curiosity, it allowed me to be less afraid. It allowed me to be less afraid and look at all of the things that were deep in my emotional body that like I really didn't want to look at. And so that word curiosity, I think, is a powerful tool. So like, even though you gave one tool, you gave like 4, I feel, you know?
Absolutely. I agree. And can we just say, because I totally got a visual, and friends, I know you did too if you're listening. And if we're watching the video, I just pictured Marilena as a child being like, but why? But why? Why? Like in pigtails and just asking 150,000 questions a day. Like, I love that so much.
Facts.
Sorry. I just had to put that out there.
Facts.
Why is the sky blue? Why are the clouds like that? Why is there a shadow on the ground? Anyway, I love that. Side squirrel. Welcome to this podcast. Shannon has squirrel moments. This is real life. I love that. I do think that you're like, I don't even know how I can give one tool. What is one tool? Friend, Elisa, you just gave like, just the power of everything you just said is profound. And I think that we are describing that joy doesn't have to be hard, but we get to feel the feels and create it, right? This doesn't just come naturally. And today it's not, right? Marilena is sitting in an 85-degree house. She's creating joy internally at every moment, right? This is real life. And so life is going to hit us sideways, and it's what you do with that and how you create a different way of being and showing up for yourself first, because then that energy is magnified outwards, right? I love this conversation, and we could talk for hours. Again, I love what you do. I love what you're creating for the world. We're entrepreneurs and it's so easy to just get wrapped up in the doing every single day and not closing the computer, not getting off of Zoom, not sitting in your chair, right? We get to move and we get to shake and we get to reframe. And so, oh my gosh, this has been a beautiful conversation. Thank you so much, Elisa, for being on our podcast. It has been a blessing. And I love the simple solutions to all that you said and brought today.
Yeah. Yes. And if anybody wants to check out Elisa's work, definitely check out in the description of this podcast. Her website will be there. And we hope that you will check out what she's offering, read her book, and just see how you can find your own way to joy through finding more confidence in your own life. And Elisa, thank you so much for being here. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun. It was so great. I loved it. I loved all the tools that we shared and how it's all connected in all these different ways. There's always a way. There's always something that we can do to bring that joy out, right? To find it, to get curious. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Love it. Thank you so much.